The candle flickered once, then twice, its fragile flame a breath held captive, mirroring the anxious rhythm within Andrew's chest.
Across the small wooden table, the chair remained eloquently empty, a vacant silhouette awaiting the woman he'd hoped to meet.
Andrew Hayes checked his watch for the third time, a silent battle against the burgeoning sting of disappointment tightening his features.
The bistro around him in Boston hummed with a symphony of quiet laughter, clinking glasses, and the caress of soft piano music. Yet, at his lonely table, only silence resided. The soft light caught the reflection of the untouched coffee in front of him, now a bitter cold.
It was a profound mirror of the emptiness gathering in the chambers of his heart.
He had whispered to himself that this encounter would break the pattern, that perhaps this time, after the relentless siege of months of loneliness, he might finally meet someone.
Someone capable of seeing past the visible scars.
And, more profoundly, those etched into the very spirit of his being.
But the minutes stretched into an almost unbearable tautness, each passing moment a leaden weight upon his spirit. His blind date, a fragile possibility woven by a kind coworker, seemed to have evaporated before its dawn. He offered a faint smile, a tender lie to comfort himself, rather than an expression of genuine amusement, contemplating that perhaps fate had simply deemed this particular evening unworthy of its grace. He reflected on the quiet faith in kindness, the profound grace of forgiveness, and the unexpected arrival of second chances. These were the tenets of the heart's unspoken kindness corner, where often the most beautiful moments unfold precisely when the anxious vigil has ceased. Before we dive deeper into this story, if you believe in second chances, if you believe that true connection can bloom from the soil of disappointment, then please take a moment to like this video.
Subscribe to Third Person View
And share it with someone who needs to believe in unexpected grace. Your support helps us spread stories that inspire the world. Andrew was about to concede defeat, to rise and leave, when the delicate sound of tiny footsteps reached him.
He, hesitant, yet imbued with a quiet determination, he lifted his gaze to find a little girl, no older than 5, standing beside his table.
She wore a pale blue dress, its fabric soft against her, and her golden curls framed a face so imbued with innocence it seemed to emit a gentle luminescence under the warm bistro lights.
She clutched a small stuffed bunny, its ear bearing the tender mark of a tear, and her eyes, wide with a poignant mix of fear and courage, met his.
"My mom is sorry she's late," she murmured, her voice a silken thread barely audible above the room's gentle hum.
For a fleeting second, Andrew wondered if his ears had betrayed him, but before a retort could form, she climbed onto the chair opposite him,
her small feet swinging a playful, untroubled rhythm just above the polished floor. "She told me to tell you not to leave," she added, her gaze an earnest, ancient wisdom in a child's eyes.
Something profound within Andrew shifted then, an ache interwoven with an unexpected warmth, a current he could not name.
A few moments later, a woman materialized near the entrance, a vision of breathless urgency, her gaze sweeping the room. Her long chestnut hair, damp from the persistent drizzle outside, clung in dark tendrils to her face, and her beige coat, a second skin, molded to her frame. When her eyes finally alighted upon the table and the small, familiar silhouette of the little girl,
She froze for a suspended heartbeat, then offered a small, apologetic curve of her lips.
"I'm so sorry," she whispered when she reached them, her voice a delicate tremor. "Traffic was worse than I thought, and I couldn't find a sitter, so I brought Hannah along." Andrew rose instinctively, the tendrils of his earlier disappointment dissolving like morning mist under the nascent sun.
The woman, Eleanor Vance, was a revelation beyond his expectations. There was no polished glamour, no veil of rehearsed confidence, but rather a compelling current of raw, unvarnished truth.
She carried the quiet grace of one who had weathered storms, yet still found the courage to offer a fragile smile against the relentless rain.
As they settled, conversation unfurled slowly, cautiously, a delicate tapestry woven by two strangers hesitant to disturb the nascent, fragile connection stirring between them.
Eleanor explained, her voice carefully measured, that she was a single mother. Her husband, a ghost from years past, had been claimed by an accident. This left her alone with a newborn and a crushing mountain of unpaid bills. She confessed she had not anticipated dating again, but her best friend, a persistent voice of solace, had insisted she reach for the possibility of mending her own heart.
Andrew listened, utterly captivated, not merely by the unfolding saga of her life, but by the quiet, resonant strength that pulsed beneath her words.
He found himself, unexpectedly, sharing his own narrative, how his life for 3 years had been cleaved between the sterile precision of corporate meetings,
in the haunting emptiness of nights since his fiancée was stolen by a car crash.
He hadn't dared a single date since. He had diligently erected walls around his heart, a fortress built on the conviction that love, for him, was a phantom of the past. But sitting there, watching Hannah, Eleanor's little girl, offer a delicate sugar cube to her imaginary tea party bunny, a warmth like the first thaw of spring bloomed within him. The night, a delicate dance of stolen hours, stretched longer than either had intended. The bistro emptied slowly, yielding its intimacy to a few lingering diners and the faint, lingering scent of coffee mingling with the spectral whisper of rain. When Eleanor made a move to pay, Andrew stopped her with a gentle touch, his smile a warm invitation. "Allow me," he murmured. "After all, I kept you both waiting." Eleanor hesitated, her gaze searching his, then, recognizing the profound kindness in his eyes, a kindness that demanded nothing in return, she acquiesced. As they stepped outside into the Boston night, the drizzle had deepened into a soft, persistent downpour. Eleanor opened her umbrella, a protective canopy, shielding Hannah first, then offered a small smile as Andrew extended his hand, an anchor to help her navigate the treacherous, slick pavement. For the first time in a long while, the sensation of the rain on his skin was not an annoyance, but a tender caress. The rain, the insidious cold, the late hour, every element that once would have sharpened his irritation now coalesced into a potent, almost healing poetry. They exchanged numbers, a fragile, hesitant promise whispered into the murmuring night, but a promise nonetheless. Eleanor waved goodbye as she buckled Hannah into the car, the little girl waving her bunny with infectious glee, shouting, "Goodbye, Mr. Andrew," through the rain-streaked window. He waved back, a buoyancy, lighter than air, lifting his heart. Over the weeks that followed, a delicate rhythm of encounters unfolded. Once for coffee, then for a sun-dappled picnic on Boston Common,
and later still for a quiet evening where Hannah drifted to sleep in Andrew's lap.
Eleanor, her voice a hushed confession, unwound stories of a past she had sworn silent forever. Each shared moment, a silken thread, wove something profound back together within the intricate tapestry of both their souls. But just as life threatened to bloom into beauty once more, Eleanor's past, like a shadow from a forgotten storm, returned in the cruelest fashion. She lost her position. The small clinic in Manchester, where she worked as a nurse, shuttered suddenly, a victim of unforeseen bankruptcy.
She attempted to conceal the truth, a silent shield erected so Andrew would not feel the weight of her burden.
Yet he noticed. He discerned the quiet siege of worry in her eyes, the insidious return of sleeplessness shadowing her fragile beauty. One evening, as she struggled to apologize for the mess she felt she had become, Andrew simply held her gaze.
He said, "Eleanor, sometimes we are destined to be the anchor, the unwavering reason someone else does not succumb to despair." He helped her navigate the labyrinthine search for another position, not by pulling strings, but by standing as a quiet pillar beside her during interviews.
His steady presence was a balm, his words an encouragement when self-doubt threatened to consume her. And through every ebb and flow, Hannah remained the luminous bridge spanning the chasm between their hearts. The child who, unknowingly, had simply walked into a stranger's life, and in doing so, rewritten two fractured narratives into a singular, hopeful epic. Months later, the same Boston bistro bore witness to their return, this time with a small, discreet, reserved sign gracing their table. Andrew knelt beside Hannah, a conspiratorial glint in his eyes as he pretended to whisper a profound secret.
Do you think your mom would say yes if I asked her something very, very important?
The little girl's eyes widened, then burst into 1,000 tiny stars of excitement as she nodded, a silent command.
Eleanor, watching from a few steps away, a nervous tremor of laughter escaping her lips, saw Andrew turn, holding a small velvet box like a promise in his hand.
No words were truly needed.
Tears, luminous and silent, tracked paths down Eleanor's cheeks as she nodded, utterly overwhelmed, her heart spilling over with a fragile, profound joy.
The Boston Bistro, once a shrine to disappointment, now stood as the very crucible of redemption.
The flickering candlelight, which had once mirrored solitude, now shimmered with a potent, intangible hope.
It was the kind of hope that only love, the enduring strength of patience, and the profound grace of second chances could conjure into being.
For in the hushed fading of the evening, as the rain whispered its soft secrets outside, Andrew looked across the table, not towards an empty chair this time.
He looked towards the woman and child who had, with their mere presence, poured vibrant color back into the grayscale of his existence.
And in that sacred, gentle silence, he understood. Sometimes love does not arrive when meticulously planned.
Instead, it walks in holding a child's hand, murmuring softly, "My mom is sorry she's late."